Hey, Nicole here with Own Your Moment. Today I have a very special interview in our Behind the Booth series of interviews where I get to interview people who own photo booth businesses. Today I am bringing you an interview with Drew from Hustle with Drew. I am so excited to share this. This has been a long time coming. He actually interviewed me when I was 4 months into my business and really getting my feet wet in the photo booth industry. And we just chatted about the success I had, the things I was learning, my positives and negatives, all of that stuff. And I'll actually link that interview here for you. So go check that out and kind of see 2022 version of Nicole before Own Your Moment really was even in existence. And so grateful for that opportunity. And I know a lot of you even follow me now because of that interview. And so thank you so much for being here. Just grateful for any opportunity and chance to chat with Drew. But today's interview is so special because I'm talking to him about his business, how he got started, and kind of the direction that he's gone to now with Photo Booth 101. He is building and selling his own photo booths and providing them for people. Really excited to share this chat with you. So let me stop talking and show you the interview. Here we go. Drew, I am so excited to be talking to you today. For anyone that's following that doesn't know who you are, would you mind just sharing and introducing yourself?
Yes, yeah. So good to see you again, Nicole. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
same.
So my name is Drew. I have a YouTube channel, Hustle with Drew, also owner of Photo Booth 101. Um, but yeah, a little bit about me, about my photo booth history and where I first started. So about 8 years ago, I was really into filmmaking. I was a producer for a lot of automotive content. Basically like drifting. I don't know if you're familiar with what drifting is.
Yeah. No,
So I
so
would
wait, where are you located?
Yeah, we are in Hacienda Heights, basically
Okay.
like Southern California, about 20 minutes from downtown LA.
Oh, cool.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, you're okay with me just giving a little backstory, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So yeah, used to film. I went to a wedding and I saw a photo booth there, and I was like, "Whoa, this is kind of cool," you know. And I noticed that it was the same camera that I use for my content, the stuff I would make. And then I noticed that the printer the guy was using was a printer my friend had, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I just started casually talking to the guy, and then I had the courage to ask him, which was looking at it now is kind of rude. I was like, "Hey, how much are you making?" And he said $1,000, and I was like, "For how long?" He was like, "I'm here for 3 hours." So I'm like, wow. I was like, that's insane. So, long story short, a buddy of mine, me and him got together, my camera, his printer. We made a photo booth shell out of a shelf. We literally turned the shelf around, drilled some holes, and it was the worst photo booth ever, but it worked.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and then fast forward to like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, my wife and I got engaged, and I was like, well, let's partner up, let's start a different company because my friend moved across the country,
Wow.
and yeah, we wanted to something to pay for our wedding, so we started Rustic Charm Booth, and it's all, and then it's been from there. Her creativeness. She was in PR before she quit her job to do photo booth with me full time, and it's been insane ever since. So.
That is so
Yeah.
amazing. So
Mhm.
man, 8 years ago. So back 8 years ago, how were photo booths? Like, were they just cameras on tripods? Like, I actually don't even know. Like, I don't even know when photo booths kind of started.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like 8 years ago, there was not a lot of products on the market because I wouldn't say it was new. Photos were like, it'd been around for a few years already.
Yeah.
So the ones you would see were like the giant, bulky ones with the big enclosure, like ones you would see at like a fair.
Yeah.
They didn't really, that whole portable thing wasn't really a thing yet. But there were a lot of tripods, literally just a tripod camera and then the computer. But there wasn't much to buy, and then the ones that were available were crazy expensive, like
Yeah.
talking like 8,000 plus for just a shell. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Like I'm seeing that with DSLR cameras. They're very pricey, very expensive. Like even some of the Photo Booth Supply Co. like first generations were over 10K just to get started, just to buy those booths. So yeah, it wasn't a cheap, easy kind of business to get into back
mhm.
then. But you found a way to make it happen for yourself, which is really cool. So at what point did you decide that like, okay, this is actually a business that I can
make work for me?
Yeah, you know, it was definitely when I started doing iPads, the iPad booths.
Yeah.
Because
Wait, when was that?
I would say 5 years ago.
Wow.
Um, yeah, but my setup, you know, I don't know if you've seen my old videos. The first iPad shells we had were literally just a ring light kit from Amazon. And you know, we were using Curator at that time. And yeah, that's when I realized that when I actually it happened by accident, right? The drop off. So basically, we'll drop off the iPad booth, let the customers use it, pick it up. It was actually like on accident.
Really?
Yeah, so when we dropped off the photo booth, I was supposed to stay at the event. It was at a bar. It was the weirdest. It was a wedding at a bar, believe it or not.
Oh my God.
And I didn't have my ID on me. So they were like, you can't
You
stay.
can't
And I
come
was,
in. Oh my gosh.
yeah. And I was like, well, can I like set it up, you know, and then come home, pick up my ID, come back. And then the security guard was cool enough. So he let me set up. And then I left. And then they were using the photo booth already. So I checked because
Wow.
on Curator, you can obviously, like other softwares too, you can check to see who's using the photo booth. So they're already using it. And then I was just kind of like, whoa, like I'm not even there, you know, and they're using it. So then that's kind of how it started. So that's when I knew like I could go all in on the business is with the drop off.
Yes. Because that completely removes, yeah, it removes you from the situation, it removes you from having to think of like, okay, I need 50 attendants. I have 50 events this weekend, or 10 events, or three or two events, right?
Mhm.
Like, because then you're not splitting yourself, or like having to organize like, okay, this one ends at 2. I can make it this event at 4, you know? So that's really, yeah, that changes the game a little bit for entrepreneurs to be able to not have that much stress and effort into a business. Like that's pretty amazing. How did did you have any fears with drop-offs, in as far as like people damaging them, breaking them, like drunk people being around them, like any kind of those fears?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked, I would say
I'm sure.
every. Yeah, no, 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 but it's a valid one, right? But for me, if my the reason why I wasn't worried is because my first setup was literally $150, like my
Wow.
photo shell.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was at that time charging, I think $200, right, for a drop off. And I was just like, well, you know, what are the odds? Like, what's going to happen? And since I was ordering everything on Amazon, Amazon has a great return policy. So if something did break, you know, I knew that I had like 90 days to
Yeah.
return. So yeah, I mean, I was never really worried about it. And then I always have contracts in place,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's like something they writ you know, a contract you send, they sign, or at least, you know, we have something on a text message.
Mm.
I'll be honest, we've done thousands of drop-offs. I think I had one issue one time out of
Wow.
all of them. And it wasn't even like a big deal. It was literally just kind of like a wear and tear thing where
Mm.
the light wasn't really sturdy because you know after people keep
Yeah.
pressing it gets a little loose. But it was an easy fix, and I didn't, you know, the customer was like they reached out to me. They said, "Hey, there's an issue with it. I'm not sure if someone broke it here or not, but if you want me to pay for it, I'll pay for it." And I'm like, "No, don't worry about it." So yeah, to answer your question, it's not something I'm worried about, not at all.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So you've been doing drop-offs since you started with the iPads 5 years ago. And
Mhm.
when did you kind of see that explode, as far as like, was it a gradual progression, or did you decide like, yo, I'm only going to focus on drop-offs now?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great question. So really, when my wife joined forces and we created Rustic Charm Booth, it was literally like I went all in, which probably not the best idea. So we went from one booth to five, and I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna buy it, and I see the potential because we are already getting like overbooked. So we did five, and then I was just like, okay, well now I have to do more marketing. I have to get these things rented out, and then
Yeah.
I realized that it was the best way to go, right? Because with the drop off, I can undercut everyone. Like I can have the lowest price. My thinking was like, look, I can be the most affordable photo booth because I'm dropping it off. I don't have to pay an attendant. I don't have to pay for prints. And the way we set it up is we allow our customers we allow them to have us drop it off in the morning.
Mm.
my thought was like, look, they can have it all day. I can basically set up the furthest event at 11, the next one, the next one, the next one. So, that's just kind of the way we structured it. And, the more passive it was for me, the more potential I saw in the business. And I
Yeah.
personally still think it's the best way to run your business. But people like you sometimes make me question it. And I'm like, well, she's doing these events and you're there, you're getting great content. And that's just one of the drawbacks is if I'm not there, I don't have access to do those photos and make those awesome like Instagram posts, those reels and stuff. But yeah, so I just back to your question. I went all in. And fortunately enough for me, it paid off because we just, we got all of those booths booked. And then we went from literally, I think in 6 months, from 1 to having 8. And then I think a couple months after that, we added 2 more. And then I think a month after that, so we literally have 12 photo booths.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all you build yourself and put together yourself.
Yeah, well, the first they were DIY booths. Literally I just spruced up the ring light booth by adding a piece of wood to the back and screwing in like a little $10 plastic case and then forcing the iPad in. But now we use strictly photo booths that we sell on Photo Booth 101. We use the deluxe booth. And that's been the booth we've been using. And then sometimes we'll have people pick up photo booths from us now since we have an office space.
Oh my
So
gosh,
customers, they're coming to us, picking up the booth, setting it up themselves. And that has been a game changer. But we use our own booths now. So
interesting. So do you when customers coming to get it themselves, is that like less than you setting it up? Do you charge less or is it the same?
Yeah, way less.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a package for $200, gets them just the shell with the iPad.
Wow.
And then of course, the beautiful thing about the drop off, and this is the way I run my business, is we have the lowest price, but everything is a la carte.
Yeah.
So if you want a backdrop, that's additional. You want props, that's additional. And then I like to withdraw some of the features. So like if they want boomerang and video, that is an additional cost as well. And then look, even internet, if they want us to activate internet, that's $20.
Yeah. So. Wow, that's really cool. So they get to really kind of create their own experience that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Wow. So you started doing exponential amount of drop-offs. How much has that brought you as far as revenue?
Yeah, last year we did a little over 120,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's strictly just drop-offs. And then we also
in 1 year.
1 year. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And some people are like, their minds blown, but I'm like, it is a lot. Don't get me wrong. My mentor, this guy named Daniel in Canada, believe it or not, did over 300,000.
Wow.
And same concept. He's dropping off photo booths like left and right. But that's last year. And to be honest with you, I think this year we're probably gonna hit our maybe around 250,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
but
congratulations.
Thank you.
I know it's been a long time coming and it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of like trial and error. What would you say has been like your biggest lesson learned in all of this?
Yes, the drop off has made me realize and appreciate how valuable my time is.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing, that's the main benefit you have if dropping off is, like, for instance, let's say someone gets hired for an event, they have to stay there, right? You have to stay there for the 3 hours.
Yeah.
Well, for me, those 3 hours, I'm using that time to drop off more photo booths.
Right.
And another benefit of the drop off is, let's just say at the end of the year, I have maybe 8 times more events that I've done than the other photo booth owner because they have to stay there. And out of those doing 8 times more events means I have more reviews. I have more customers that are going to hire me again, more leads. So, and then another thing too, is I have way more experience, and I always I know a lot of people don't talk about this, but I like to think of myself like as like a pro now, like when it comes to selling, when it comes to dealing with customers, I'm just a sharpened tool because I'm always doing it. I have more leads and all that stuff. Yeah. The experience, and I don't know, it's really made me appreciate my time because, back in the day, I'd have to stay because we were offering prints. The drop off is only digital. I should probably make that clear. We don't offer print drop offs because with printing, you have
Oh,
to
there's
make
no
sure that.
way.
Yeah, there's no way. And a lot of times kids or drunk people will
Oh my
start
gosh.
thinking,
No,
yeah.
no, I
So
can't imagine that. No.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're making me reconsider a lot of things, Drew. This isn't good. Um, um, no, this is really incredible. And it's so true because it's something that I've realized that I'm need to get better at is valuing my time. But on the other hand, like I will say that a lot of people, how do you address this when people, or do you encounter this where people say like, no, I want an attendant? Like, do you think that that's an actual
Mm.
draw or desire, or do you think that really people don't care?
I have an answer for every thing that a person will say about the drop off, like a
Yeah.
customer. So I always like to say like, well, I totally understand you want an attendant. But from my experience is when there's no one there, it's a more private, intimate session. And I
Yeah.
would say like, let's just say your cousin and his wife, by the photo booth, they may want to kiss each other, maybe like do something inappropriate. But if there's a stranger there, they may not want to do that. And it may be a little bit awkward. And usually when I explain that, 9 out of 10 times they're like, you know what, that makes sense. And then that other person's like, well, what if something happens to the photo booth? That's why we want an attendant. I explain to them, I'm like, look, our setup is very simple. I never say the word iPad. I say
Yeah.
our device is just all in one. So there's not a lot going on, and the photo booth will run itself. So
Mhm.
there's really no need to have someone there. And if they really want it, I'll let them know that it's going to be an additional $100 an hour because we
Yeah.
have to have an employee there and all that. And usually by then, when I say all those things, they're just like, okay, I get
Oh,
it.
never mind.
Go attend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
And what's been the feedback? Like after, if that person, let's say, who wanted an attendant, maybe decides not to have an attendant, they do the photo booth, like has their feedback been positive, or have you ever like answer that question, but then also have you ever encountered like negative feedback or like a negative experience?
Yeah. So you're saying, like, what has the feedback been with the no attendant from the customer?
Yeah, like maybe somebody who wanted an attendant and then didn't have an attendant and did the photo booth, like was it a positive experience for them, or were they validated and like, oh, I should have had an attendant, or no, like you were right, I didn't need one.
No, yeah, the feedback's always been great. They always, obviously not every customer is going to be like, you were right. Um,
Right.
I've had like usually they'll come back and they'll say like the photo booth was great, everyone enjoyed it, and I've never had anyone bring it up. They don't bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually just one of those things where they just, I'm gonna say the feedback is good because we get a
Right.
lot of repeat customers, and yeah, never no issues. No one's ever said anything bad. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
And so what you made 120K in a year. That's mind blowing. And then obviously like your expenses, how would you say with drop-offs, is there a lot of expenses with that? Like, do you have insurance? Do you
Yeah,
invest a lot in marketing?
yeah, good question. So expenses, obviously you have your software,
Mhm.
which isn't too bad. We like to use LumaBooth for our drop-offs. That starts off at 20 a month, allows you to use 2 devices, and then
Wow.
obviously you can pay more. I don't want to get too much into the software,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
obviously the software, we every iPad we have for the drop-off has a SIM card in it, which we have like a tablet line from T-Mobile. I think we pay like 20 a month for that per iPad. And then we have our office space, but I'm not going to include that. Like we could totally run our business without
Right.
this. So yeah, there's really not much. We do have insurance. We have Hiscox. We have like liability insurance. And I say that would probably be like 35 a month.
Wow.
I would say our biggest expense probably would be gas.
Yeah.
And just
Dropping off booths.
yeah, so I like to tell people I feel like a high paid Uber driver
Yeah.
and my customers are photo booths.
Yeah, that's true. Do you have a big van like to transport?
So here's the beautiful thing about it. We can basically load up our Prius with like 6 to 7 photo booths.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we just bought a schoolie, like a school bus that's
Nice.
converted into like a tiny home. So we're gonna, hopefully soon I'm gonna make a video where we do all our drop-offs in the bus, and then
Yes.
during the downtime we're gonna probably hit the beach. And
Yes.
yeah, it's gonna be a cool video. So
So it's so funny because I've kind of in a roundabout way kind of had a similar experience, but because I started to do the phone audio guest books. And
Mhm.
so those are drop-offs. I'm like toying around with that. Usually I only rent those with my photo booths, but now I've been like dropping them off for maybe clients that I know personally.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like I dropped off a phone for a quince, and then I went to Universal with my son, and we went and rode rides, and then I went back and picked it up. And so that kind of experience, I was like, this is really interesting, like not having to be there for this event and still like making
Mhm.
money for my business. It's like a wild concept.
Let me ask you a question. Why don't you offer drop-offs for your customers for the photo
For
booth?
my photo booth, I'm terrified. That's
Mm.
why, Drew. Um, honestly, I have one photo booth. I just got a second. And it was I won it, so that was really, really cool.
Wait,
Um,
wait, wait. What? You won the
yeah,
photo booth? Was
yeah.
it
So
like a giveaway?
yes. So Photo Supply Co. did like a testimonial, like submit like your story, and then the winner like got a free photo booth. And so
Wow, that's so cool.
I didn't apply, like I didn't want to apply initially because I was like, there's no way, but then I did, and I just shared my story, and so I won. And it was just like so crazy and exciting and awesome. And I felt so honored, and I've never won anything in my life. So it was the coolest thing ever. So now I have two. So it's definitely something I'm toying with.
Mm.
It's like my baby. And so I'm terrified of the what ifs of it. But now that I do have two, I'm more intrigued in the idea of dropping it off. So I do have one client that I'm doing a drop off. It's like a Galentine's at like a little shop in a couple weeks. And so that will be my first trial run. It's literally around the corner. So I know I'm not too far away if anything goes wrong. So yeah, we're trying it out and seeing.
Well, if you're down, I could send you a photo booth. You can have a photo booth from Photo Booth 101 strictly for drop off.
Yeah, no,
Because
I'm really
yeah, we'll,
intrigued,
we'll talk
Drew.
about that. We'll talk about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we'll chat.
yeah, I'm excited
No,
for you. I think you're gonna love it. I mean, you got a little taste with the phone that you dropped off.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool.
So yeah, I'm all about the experience. And so I really do love being at the events, but you're right, like it is it's not easy to be at every event, and a 3 hour event turns into a 7, 8 hour event sometimes, especially if it's a distance away, especially if I have to like coordinate childcare. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes of just a 3 hour event. It's typically 7, 8 hours. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into it that people don't see. So the idea of a drop off is very intriguing. I can totally see how it would work. But I'm super stoked for you, and I'm so excited that you've made this business and made it so successful, and you're on to bigger and better things. And now you've started a company. So tell me, like, let's talk about Photo Booth 101.
Mhm.
How did you, I mean, obviously you had your own 12 booths. Like what prompted you to like, hey, let me start making and selling my own?
YouTube, my YouTube channel. So I for the longest was just making photo booth related content.
Yeah.
Uh, honestly, my YouTube channel was Hustle with Drew. I was doing a lot of different businesses and just showing people that like, hey, you can make money. I'm doing it. This is how I'm doing it. And then the photo booth stuff kind of was really popular. The people were really connecting with the photo booth stuff. So I was showing them the DIY builds that I was making. I showed them that they could buy a iPad photo booth shell, like the janky one from
Yeah.
Amazon,
Yeah.
the ring light kit. And I was saying like, look, you can buy this ring light kit, throw in your iPad, boom, you have a business. And then I upgraded, started making some upgrades to that. People were interested in the upgrades, and then people were asking if I could make them booths.
Mm.
So that's kind of how I was like, okay, well, there's a demand for it. Obviously people want information on how to do it because I'm making these videos. So, put that together. I was like, maybe I need to open up a showroom and start a company where we sell affordable iPad booth shells. A place, when you buy a photo booth, you also get sample contracts, you also get sample booking forms, all of the stuff I wish I had when I first started. I just literally all I did is just looked at all of my comments, and all of the questions were things that I wanted to include in the business. So, we have a showroom here. It's about 20 minutes from downtown LA. We do sell everything online, and yeah, and most importantly, you know what? I every time someone buys something from me, you also get access to myself.
Mm,
People that bought a photo booth 2 months ago that still send me messages with questions. And it's just something I just enjoy helping people. There's nothing better than getting a message and someone's like, "Hey, first gig, I got paid $500 plus a tip." And I'm just like, I don't know. That just makes my day. And I know how overwhelming it can be to start a business, especially when you're talking about photo booth business. People think that you have to be like super tech, in which I love the iPad booth because if you know how to use an iPhone, you're like 90% on the way.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and things have been going good. The feedback's been great. So I can't complain. It's been good.
Okay, so that brings up a question as far as like, yeah, any kind of tech support, customer service, like how does that work?
Yeah, so I already, when they purchase a booth, I already have a list of videos that they need to watch from step
Okay.
one. Step one being like what settings to do on your iPad, videos on like marketing, videos on like a tutorial for Luma Booth, the software we use. And then I give them all of that. I'm like, hey, watch these videos in order. They watch them. And I'm like, if you ever have any other questions, you can either text or call. So I have a direct line where customers can reach out to me personally. And then if it's something where, they'll need like a visual, I usually hop on a quick call. We'll schedule something. And but yeah, but I mean, the cool thing about the iPad booths are like it's so simple.
Yeah,
It's like
there's not much that can go wrong.
exactly. Yeah, I always tell people I'm like with the iPad booth, it's literally two things: your iPad and your show.
Right.
Usually the problem is something within the iPad, and it's usually the internet.
Internet, I was just gonna say it's the
Yeah.
internet every time. Yeah.
99.9% of the time, it's the internet.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time. Every time I have an issue personally, it's like, oh, let me check the internet because that's
Yeah.
usually what. Yeah. So obviously there's not, we're probably running out of time, but there's multiple photo booth companies out there. What would you say sets yourself apart from all the rest?
Good question. Price point.
Mhm.
I'm super stoked that our DigiBooth, that's what we call it, DigiBooth, because obviously I always tell everyone don't call your iPad booth iPad. Never use that
Yeah.
word with customers, just because I feel like they think that like, well, iPad booth, like I have an iPad, why am I going to pay you $500 for an
Right.
iPad? So we call it the DigiBooth. It is $1,000, $999. So I wanted to make a photo booth that everyone could afford. As you
Yeah.
know,
That's crazy affordable.
some photo booths cost $3,000 just for a
Yeah.
shell. So I always say like, buy whatever's in your budget. So that makes me excited to know that we have one of the most affordable booths. And then we also have two other booths that we sell, and they're all under $2,000.
Wow.
What sets me apart too is not just the pricing of the booth, it's the education. You get the assets, which is the sample contract for the drop off. So it's a specific type of contract, that you can't just use a traditional photo booth contract, right? Because it has to cover more of the like what stuff that happens when you're not there, and all that good stuff. Model release,
Mhm.
the sample booking forms, which is like a Word document. So you could just literally copy it, paste it into like Honeybook or your website. Or if you're just getting started, you could just use it, send it as an email, and tell them to reply with the info.
Yeah.
And just little things like that, I think that separate me and Photo Booth 101 from other companies. It's just I'm trying to build a community, and I always tell people this: I want to build a network of people from Photo Booth 101 across the nation, right, across the U.S., where it's just like, hey, does anyone have any events in LA that they can't do? We're starting a WhatsApp group chat, and then
Cool.
someone's like, yeah, you're actually I got an event I can't do, and just like kind of like a how can I say, like a family. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the goal, because in a lot of businesses, people think it's, competition. They always think about competition, right? And
Mhm.
people always ask me like, hey, aren't you afraid that you're creating competition for yourself?
Mhm.
And I don't believe in that. I think it's community over competition. So that's just my process on that too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, even like the way that we connected on, I think Instagram, right? Like you reached out because it's so fun. This story, I always think it's so funny is because you reached out because you saw my Instagram ad in California, and you were kind enough to message me and say like, yo, your ad's in California. I'm pretty sure I'm not like your target market. And I was like, oh my gosh, never even considered it. Like thank you. I appreciate that. Because it's actually something I see often. I mean, totally different subject, but anyways. And then you were kind enough to ask for me to interview. And I'm like, that was just such a generous and kind gesture. And I so appreciate that and you taking that effort. And that was the beginning of my journey. And so getting to chat with you really opened my eyes to the possibility of this business as a whole, and even like jumping on YouTube and really kind of amping up the idea of Own Your Moment to provide support and education and a community for photo boothers. And so I'm just so grateful for you. I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I'm so excited for you guys and your newlyweds. Like, congratulations on that too. You just got married and you're starting this whole new business together. And I think I'm just so excited for you guys. I'm so excited for Photo Booth 101 and where that's going to take you. And I mean, you just started recently within the last couple of months, right?
Yeah. Beginning of December.
Wow.
Yeah.
2023 is going to be wild.
Yeah, you too. I'm excited for you too. I mean, I'll be honest, you're like one of my favorite content creators when it comes to photo booth content.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm excited to be like, yeah, I had a little part in that, so.
Yeah, you absolutely did. You absolutely did. Well, Drew, is there anything else that you want to say to the audience?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to say if anyone is interested in getting an iPad photo booth shell, photobooth101.com is where you guys can go. www.photobooth101.com. We don't just sell iPad booths. We have backdrops, props, and all that stuff. So like I mentioned before too, like we do provide video training. Everything you'll need to get going is something we do. And also I want to thank you again for just giving me this chance to talk to you. And I just enjoy doing this. So if you guys aren't subscribed to her channel and you're watching this, you guys have to subscribe. So
thank you so much, Drew. And everyone, I'll put everything in the comments below. So don't worry, everything will be there and you can click it and check out all of his stuff and his content. And Drew, thank you so much again. And I look forward to we should do this every year, or 6 months, like recap where you've been, what you've done, the successes you've had. And it's just going to be so great.
I'm down. Perfect.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
That is a wrap for our Behind the Booth series with Drew. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I had so much to think about now with the business. I'm so inspired by him and his literal hustle and the way that they work together and the way that they've really built this business. And I think what I love most is their heart for helping people. And I actually sat down with him and got to talk about some things with him on his channel. So go check that out too. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything, I'm here. Join us at Own Your Moment Co. on Instagram or our Facebook group. I'll link that all below. So thank you guys for being here and I'll see you later.